Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to show you how I basically cut out a section of my sock. I did mention this on the podcast last week. I knitted a pair of socks and I wasn't happy with the way I did the heel, so I'm basically going to unravel a whole round and then rip out a whole section, re-knit it, and then graft the two sections back together. So the bit I'm going to show you is how I cut a stitch and unravel it, and how I graft it back together again. And I do make a pretty big mistake at the end of the grafting, but I just managed to fudge it, kinda. So this will be useful for anything really, not just socks. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you're new here, my name is Anniken. I design knitting patterns. I teach knitting workshops online and in person, and I sell yarn through my website YarnAddict.co.uk. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. So let's take a look at this sock. I'm going to cut it here and unravel it up to here. I knitted it from the top down, so in that direction, so I need to unravel it that way. But the problem is when you cut the yarn, you obviously, where you cut it, you end up with like no tail for this section. So I need to cut it a couple of rounds above where I want to unravel to. And I don't want to re-knit more than I absolutely have to, so I'm going to work out where I finished decreasing, which is here. That's my last decrease round. So I think I'm going to go one row above that, and then I will unravel that before I put on the needles. So let's just do that. So I'm going to cut it here. So just find the stitch, put my needle in, snip it. I know that sounds scary, but just make sure that you're not cutting through, like if you're holding the sock like that, you're not cutting through like the back of the fabric as well. You just want to cut through one stitch, and then I'm going to unravel it. I'm not going to attempt to put it back on the needles because this section I'm going to unravel loads, and this one I'm going to unpick one more round. Yes, so I'm just going to unpick this. So I'm nearly back at the beginning. Depending on where you're knitting, if you're knitting with something in the thicker yarn than sock yarn, like DK yarn, it probably won't unravel that quickly unless it's a very slippery yarn that has like silk in it, or bamboo, or cotton, like a silky, smooth cotton, because that can unravel quicker. But also, if it's been a while since you knitted it, the stitches do kind of get set in their shape, so they don't unravel that quickly. Okay, so just going to pull this one out. So that is where I cut it. So I'm going to unravel that. That will unravel fairly quick, easily, should do. Like that. So I'll do that in a minute. And then here I need to go back one more round. So where's the start of the round? Because obviously I need to make sure the start of the round is correct, because it needs to line up with the toe. So I'm going to try and, because I wanted to line up with my toe, I should have put a marker in really before I started, but I didn't. So let's see. So I needed to line up with there. I'm going to try and follow. If it's one stitch out, it's not going to be the end of the world. Okay, let's just do that. I think it's roughly there. Hang on, I lost it. There we go. I think it's roughly there. So I'm going to, now I'm not worrying about whether these stitches are the right way on the needles, the wrong way on the needles. I don't really care about that. When I knit a sock, I will normally put a marker in where I start the foot and where I start the toe. So normally after the rib on the calf or the leg, when I start the foot and when I start the toe. And unfortunately I stupidly took out the markers on this because this was the first sock, and when I finished it I took out the markers, which I'm really annoyed at now, because having the marker at the start of the toe would make it easier. Because this is slightly variegated, I can probably work it out. When it's solid, I find it really difficult to like follow one row across, because I need to be able to match the number of rounds I knitted for the other sock. Having said that, if it's one round out, these stitches are so tiny it's not going to make any difference. When you unpick stitches like this, try not to pull too tightly on your stitches, because if you pull on the fabric they will unravel. At the moment I'm just trying to just keep the fabric relaxed so these don't unravel. And some of them I'm putting back on the needle correctly, some are the wrong way around, as in twisted, some I may have split. I don't care, like that one is split. I don't care about that at the moment. I just want to catch them all, put them on the needle so that they are safe for when I come to join them again. So that one is unraveled one, so I'm just gonna put that on as it is. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to unpick one more round, because so many of these are twisted, some have unraveled an extra round. Okay, there. So that's my stitches. I'm going to unpick one round just to make sure that they're all correct on the needles, that I have the right number of stitches, all that kind of stuff. And then I'm going to put that one away and unravel this one, and then I will put these stitches on the needles. So what I'll do with this one is I'll unravel it. I'm not going to keep this yarn because I have quite a lot left, so I'm going to knit with the unknitted yarn because this is all curly. If it had like a specific color sequence, like it was self-striping or something, I would probably knit with this yarn, but I'm not going to bother because I don't think it makes much difference with this yarn. So now I've unraveled, so I think beginning of the round is roughly, so I'm just looking for where I wove in the end. Oh, it's here. So the beginning of the round is around here. So here it doesn't matter too much if I'm not like perfectly lined up with the beginning of the round, because this is just knitted in a tube, and if I have one round more on one half than the other, it doesn't matter. Now I've got to increase there, so I actually need to go back a couple more rows. So I've gone in there, and then I'm going to, hang on, where's my sewing needle? I had a sewing needle here, but I've either put it back in my case or I've lost it, so I'm just carefully going to use my scissors. Just to, I could have gone back a couple more rounds before I started unpicking, but that's fine. So there we go. Okay. So some I will try and put these back on the needles the right way around, but some of them will be twisted. That's fine. I will just careful when I knit the first round to make sure that they're all correctly on the needles. So now I have two sections. I have one foot section, one cuff section. Let me show you the other sock, and I have my first sock. So the key is to re-knit this section here, and you can see here where I meant, you can hear my dog probably, he's just jumped off the sofa. You can see here that I've got a marker, and that's the start of my foot. That's on the second sock. So normally I'll put a marker here after the rib. I know the rib is 25 rounds, so I can count that. And then I have 80 rounds, so 25 for the rib, 80 rounds to when I started, no, 80 rounds to there, 60 rounds to when I started the increases. So I need to just count here. So I should have 25 and then 60. So I need to just count that and make sure I got the right number of stitches. And then I'm going to re-knit a heel. So on this needle, I have roughly found the beginning of the round. I might be one stitch out, but I don't care about that. Some of the stitches are twisted, some are not, and a couple may have unraveled a row. So if you're not sure, it's usually easier to look at the back. If you see here, there is like a loop at the back, and that means that two of these stitches have unraveled an extra round. But I'm going to put that back on the needle as I knit this round. Here I wanted to have it correct because when I come to that later, I'm going to graft it. Here I'm going to knit. So I didn't bother. I could have unpicked one more round. In fact, I need to actually go back to here because those last two stitches on this side also unraveled. So I'm going to just go back to here. Is that correct? I can just, yes, it is. That stitch looked funny, so I thought I wanted to just double check it. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So now I'm going to shuffle my needles around, double check my number of rounds, and then start my increases for the gusset and do the heel, decrease the gusset, and then I'll come back when I'm ready to graft it to the last piece. It's a few days later, and I have re-knitted this part of the sock. So from there down to here, I made a couple of changes to the heel, and I think I'm happy with the heel now. I'm not knitting it again, so if I'm not 100% happy with it, it'll have to do. What I did was with the first sock, because normally I will put a marker where I start the heel, especially if it's just stocking stitch, because it's very difficult to count the rows that started the heel. Well, I hadn't done that on this one, so what I did was I found the first decrease on the side here, and then I basically traced a row across to here, and I worked out that that was probably the last round I had done on the foot before I started the toe. Then I counted those rows or rounds, and then I counted from the start of the foot up here. That's where the heel, I started working the heel, so I counted to there, and I'm 1 round short of what I should be. So I should have 75 rounds, so I've got 74 rounds. So now I'm going to graft this together. So the first thing I need to do is to break off the yarn, the working yarn. So I'm going to measure out, I need enough for 64 stitches. You can probably do this by winding it around your needle and stuff, but I'm going to, when I do long tail cast on, to cast on 64 stitches in sock yarn, I normally just wrap it 4 times around my hand. So I'm going to just do that and pull out a bit extra. I'd rather have a bit too much than not enough. Oh, I should have got some scissors. Okay, so let's get set up and ready to start grafting. Apologies if my nail polish doesn't look great. I probably should have done my nails before this. I'm going to do them later today, but I want to film my podcast later today, and I want to be able to show that I finished these socks. So I decided to film the second half of this tutorial now, because I have a little bit of spare time. We've had some workmen in this morning, so I've got a bit of spare time before I have to walk the dog. So I thought I'll just get on and do this now, and then it's done. I'm trying to not get these needles to spare tips to clang on the table. Working yarn is coming from the back of this sock. I must admit, I'm not sure that I've ever actually grafted anything in the round completely like this. I grafted a row, but not a complete round like this, so this is new to me as well. Okay, so I've zoomed in a little bit more. Hopefully that's not too bad. Apologize again for my pedicure. Some of my nails are looking a little bit worse for wear, but I thought I just wanted to get this done in a bit of gap of time I had. So we're going to go into the first stitch knitwise and take the stitch off the needle and then pull the yarn all the way through. Then we go into the second stitch purlwise and leave it on the needle and pull the yarn all the way through. Then we go on the back needle and we do the first stitch purlwise, take it off and pull it all the way through. Go into the second stitch knitwise, leave it on the knitting needle and pull the yarn all the way through. And then we need to make sure we pull this so it's not, we don't want to pull it really tight, but we do want to close it up. The problem is I have working yarn from the back as well that's loose, which is making it a little bit looser. I actually switched the camera off. My window cleaner is here and he came around to do the windows right in front and right next to where I'm sitting, so it's a little bit noisy. But I want to get this done, so I just kept going. So I've done about half the front. One thing you need to be wary of, and you need to think about this when you're doing a toe as well, but I think it's more important when you're doing something in the middle of a project, is to make sure that the stitches are the same size as the stitches above and beyond below it. So make sure it's not too tight and not too loose. If it's too tight or too loose, you can like pull the stitches to move them along. I've done that a couple of times if I've accidentally grafted the toe a little bit loose or something, but it's not ideal. So there's a couple of slightly loose stitches there, but I'm going to leave them for now and see what I think at the end. So I've done a few stitches, but let me show you again if you're new to grafting. So into the first stitch knitwise, take it off. I tend to just leave it on my needle like that and then go into the next stitch purlwise, leave it on and then pull the yarn all the way through, just because it's a bit quicker. And you don't want to pull the yarn really tight, but you want to pull it up snug. Then you go to the back needle, first stitch purlwise, take it off, next stitch knitwise, leave it on, pull the yarn all the way through. First stitch knitwise, take it off, second stitch purlwise, leave it on, pull the yarn all the way through, back needle, first stitch purlwise, second stitch knitwise, leave it on. So the short kind of mantra for this is knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on. Is that right? Yeah, I think I got that right. So knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on. So when I first learned to graft socks, that's the mantra that I used and kept repeating to myself when I did it. Normally when you graft anything, when you get to the last 4 stitches, you can just go through the first one knitwise, the second one purlwise, purlwise, knitwise on the back, and then take the needles out. But you have to remember, if you're grafting something like this, that you've got the whole back of it left to do. So I'm actually going to do these 2 stitches like that, and then the back one, and then because I need to graft the next pair of stitches with the ones on the back, so I'm going to pull the needle all the way around. Okay, zoom out a little bit. I'm just going to pull them around on my needle so they kind of flick around the back, and then we will move the needles around. So apologies for any tapping of the needles on the table. So there we go. Okay, so we've done the whole of the front and I think that looks happy. We've done the whole of the front and I'm happy with that. I think that looks good. It looks good on the back, so that's okay. So we can carry on with the other side now. And because we're not starting again, so we can just carry on. These are the 2 stitches that I moved around from the front. So I'm going to do this bit really quickly, and then I'll see you at the end of the row and I'll show you what we do to finish it off. So I was going along happily, and then I realized here there are a few loose stitches. So I'm going to just tighten them up a little bit. So you need to make sure you're going in the right row of stitches, because if you take the ones below, it won't work. So I'm just going to go into one leg of the stitch, pull it a bit tight, go into the next leg, and next leg, and next leg. So I'm doing like every other leg here, I think, and then pull it through. So let's just tighten it up and neaten it up a little bit. So let's get the rest of it done. Okay, we're coming to the end, so just let's make sure I'm happy with that. That looks okay. So knit off, purl on, purl off. Oops, what have I done here? I've got one stitch less on the back. Okay. So I think the previous stitch fell off early, so we'll pop that back on. I don't know how that happened. Okay, so we've done the front, do the back, pull off, knit on. And if you drop a stitch off, just make sure you put it back on the needle correctly. Knit off, purl. Oh, I've still got one more stitch on the front needle. Okay, I don't know what I've done here. Okay, let's just undo that one and put that one back on. So did I accidentally drop 2 stitches off? And look, because I had 4 on the front, didn't I? Oh dear. Okay. Okay, so that's not the stitch, that's the stitch. Okay, I'm really messing up here because I've dropped all my stitches except for one off the needle. Okay, I'm not stopping the camera because I don't want to mess up this even more than what it already is. This is the problem when you get to the end, when you only have a few stitches left. It is very difficult. Okay. Right, okay, I'm going to just carry on. I will have one stitch less on the back, but I don't know what else I've done. I don't want to undo it anymore. I've already been through that stitch. So we're going to take that off, go through that one, knit off, purl on, knit, hang on, knit off, purl on. No, that was wrong. Okay, I don't care. I'm not going back to fix it. Knit off, purl, knit off, purl on. Take both of those stitches off, and then I'm just going to go into that one like that, and hopefully that will look okay. I don't know what was wrong at the end there, but these things happen. So let's have a look. So we are going to get a bit of a hole here because obviously we do have 2 ends. So let me show how we're going to fix that hole. I don't know what went wrong at the end there. But never mind, we will try and fix it. So we are going to weave in the ends. So we have ends to weave in up here. So I'll do those first because they're the easy ones. And I'll show you what I do when I weave in ends, when I join in yarn in the middle of a row or around. So normally if I'm knitting back and forth, I try and join in at the beginning of the row, but sometimes, especially when I'm knitting in the round, I have to join in the middle. So that's what I've done here. So the yarn is like that. So let me zoom in a bit. So I'm going to take the yarn and basically twist it around each other. So the green yarn that was on the left is still on the left, and the lavender yarn that was on the right is still on the right, like that. And then, because that closes up any hole I get there, then I'm going to take this one and go, the yarn that's on the left, I'm going to take that to the left. So I'm going to just choose a row of purl stitches and go in through all the stitches. So how far you go, you don't need to go like massively far. So I've done 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 stitches like that. Pull it through, pull the other end, pull both ends. If you want to, you can just check on the front to make sure your hole is closed up. Tend to pull in the other direction as well, so don't accidentally pull it too tight. I'm not going to flip this sock in back the right way around yet. I'm going to finish this first. Then I'm going to take this and go back a few stitches. So I'm going to choose the next row down to do this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Normally I do about half, so 5 is probably enough because I did 9 stitches one way. So I normally do 6 to 10 stitches one way and then half the stitches back. Let's trim that. Okay, let's do the other half. So now, because this was the yarn that was on the right, we're going to go to the right. I'm going to flip the needle, but I'll flip my sock around, so I'm still going to the left, but the green yarn was that way, so now we're going to go the other way, so we don't end up with it, what I was going to say, so we don't end up with it too lumpy in one place. So it looks like I've got like a funny thing going on here on the back, so just in case I got a bit of a hole there, I'm just going to go across 2 stitches like that, and then I'll go back down here. Just if I got a bit of a hole there, I close that up, and then we're going to go, we'll go along here, hang on, no, we'll do here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll do 9 again. Actually, let's do 10 this way, just because we have more space. There we go, pull it through. I like to be working from right to left, so that's why I flip the sock around, because it's just easier. And then we'll go row away, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And then I just pull it and pull the fabric a bit, just to make sure that it isn't sort of pulled up really tight. There we go. Okay, I'm not going to flip it around yet and look at the other side. I'm going to do these tails down here first. So what I should have done before I flip the sock inside out, I should have moved these 2 yarns to the inside. So let's take it outside again and have a look at this yarn weaving in we did up here. So was it on that side? Where did we do it? Yes, it was on this side. So it was up here. Yeah, that looks good. I can't see anything. I mean, you can just by feel it if you put your finger on it, but that's not a big deal. So now we're going to take these 2 ends to the inside. So I should have done that before I flip my sock inside out. There we go. So just take it through that big hole. You might, if you do this, you might see that big hole and think, oh, what do I do? But you don't get that on your toe. If you're just graphing the toe, it's just if you're going all the way around like this. Okay, so let's see how we're going to fix this. And remember, I did mess up slightly at the end, and I probably should have undone a few stitches and tried to fix it, but I wasn't going to do that. So if I was doing this off camera, I would just fudge it. So let's fudge it on camera. Okay, so we got quite a big hole here, so we need to close that up. Is that the side of my foot? So I'm not too worried about it, but obviously I can't have a big hole there. So I'm going to go in. So I'm not very good at like visible mending. If you're a whiz at visible mending, then you would probably be really good at this. I'm just going to go through there. Let's go through there. And hang on. We've got to bear in mind that this is like saving me an evening's worth of knitting, which is the main thing. If I was going to re-knit the whole foot. So I'm just going back and forth across this hole a few times just to try and like close it up. I'm not too worried if this doesn't, you know, look fantastic on the other side, because it is at the side of my foot. So I mainly wear socks at night when I sleep because I get really cold feet. So that's when I mainly wear socks. So nobody's really going to see it except for me, and these are socks for myself. So I'm going to weave it in here. If I'm going in towards the right rather than flipping it around and going towards the left, I tend to do 1 stitch at a time like this. If I do it going the other way, I tend to put my needle through several stitches at a time, just because I find it easier. If if that made any sense at all. Okay, let's have a look and see what that looks like. Before I trim the tail, I'm going to just flip it inside, back, no, what's it called? Back the right way, not inside out, outside in. Back the right way and see how awful that looks. So yeah, it's not pretty. You can definitely see it. But I'm going to leave it because I can't bother to be too fussy. And it's the fact that I've mucked up a bit at the end. If I hadn't done that, it would have been better. I'm still going to put this out as a tutorial on YouTube because it is really easy to go wrong right at the end. When you only have a few stitches left on your needle, it's really easy for your needles to slide out. So be aware of that, because that's what happened. And obviously it probably is more likely to go wrong when I'm filming because I'm sitting with my hands around a tripod and I can't see it as clearly as I can if it was just like in my lap. Yeah, it's a little bit kind of scrunched up here. I'm sure people who are into like visible mending could do a much better job than me on closing up that hole, but I'm not that bothered. There is perfection and there's just making something that I can wear. And as I'm the only one who's going to see it once it's on my feet, if it's if you're going to wear them with shoes, then obviously that bit's going to be covered by your shoes. I don't wear socks with my shoes very often because I have big feet and I have wide feet. So most of my shoes, I struggle to get shoes that fit me without putting thicker socks in. Occasionally my boots in the winter if it's very cold or we're in Norway, but on the whole I mainly wear them at night or in the house because I get really cold feet at night. So that's what it looks like on that side. So let's turn it back the right way out. I think I've woven in all the other ends on this sock because it was the first one. So as far as I was concerned, it was finished. Okay, let's have a look and see how bad this is. So let's just go, okay, so it's a little bit here. I think that was where I stopped and tightened it up. So I'm wondering whether I made a mistake there because it's a little bit uneven there. I think that's because that's when I stopped to tighten it up. So I think maybe I did something wrong there. But that's fine. I'm not that bothered about that because that's on the underside of the foot. And when you wear socks and you wash them and things, they get slightly felted on the underside of the foot anyway. So top side of the foot is fine. Just pull it a bit to just even it a bit out. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I don't think I can even see which row it is now. So that's good. And then the fudge bit is here. So yeah, you can see that. I'm going to see what it's like when I put it on my feet actually, how big a hole that leaves. I may have to go back and close it up a bit more at the back. So if I need to do that, I'll undo one of my tails, just go across here and then weave it in again, but hopefully I won't need to. But I think once I start wearing them and they've been washed a few times and things like that, they tend to kind of fall a little bit, not quite felt, but just fall a little bit in places anyway with friction and stuff. So I think that'd be fine. I'm happy with it, which is the main thing. And that's one thing to bear in mind when you are doing these kind of things. Either if you make a mistake that you have to fix, or you decide to do this silly fix afterwards. I could have just put up with that heel. It wasn't that bad, and even though my increases on this sock are different from the gusset on the other sock, or was different before I fixed it, so that's the reason I decided to fix it, was because I wasn't happy with the gusset on this one. I did it differently on this one. Even that I was considering leaving, because once it's on my feet, who's going to see it except for me? But I thought I'd fix it because I thought it'd be a fun exercise to do and to film this for you guys. And yeah, sometimes things don't go quite to plan, but there's no point in me kind of saying, oh, that went wrong, so I won't share it. Because when you guys come to do it and you make the same mistake or some different mistake, then you think, well, why do I always get stuff wrong? Well, I get plenty of stuff wrong as well, so I'm not that bothered about that. Anyway, you will see these in, I think I'm going to release this video next Tuesday. It's Tuesday today, and I have a video ready to go this afternoon, so it's going to be next Tuesday, so second week of July. I will talk about these socks in this this week's podcast, which is last week's podcast by the time you watch this. So episode 119, I think it is. I will talk about these socks a bit more. So I will link episode 119 below this video and at the end. So if you missed last week's podcast, which I'm filming this afternoon because it's this week's podcast, but it'll be last week's by the time you watch this. If you haven't watched it, you can go and watch it. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, if you enjoyed it, if you found it entertaining or at all helpful, let me know. Leave me a comment, like the video, and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing for more useful tutorials. Some of them are even successful tutorials where I don't make a mistake. And also regular podcasts and yarn reviews and product reviews and all that kind of stuff. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.